Well, here we are again. Welcome to everyone. Once again to Justice Radio Network and Stories from the Heart. And here I am, as usual, with Libby. Hey, Libby. How's it going?
Well, I'm glad to be here. So it was nice to be back with the virtual family.
That's right. And it's the last Stories from the Heart of 2016.
Yay! And we're going into a brand new year, aren't we?
Yeah.
I am looking forward to it.
Yes.
I'm glad Christmas is over.
Yes, that's so cool thing. I mean, I didn't really participate hardly at all, especially being on Florida. That's like completely different to what I'm used to for Christmas weather-wise and environment-wise and everything. Like it's just like of my past life of Christmas experiences is pretty much always the cold, and yeah, it's just a very different environment to be in. So really, I didn't mind. I worked for Christmas Day, looked after the horses pretty much on my own. There was somebody came and helped me clean out the stalls in the morning and came back and helped a little bit in the afternoon. But apart from that, I was just getting the horses out and moving around a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I came back and wonderful people I stay with here had some lovely dinner made, so they invited me to join for that. So that was very nice. And but other than that, it was pretty much just another day, which is always good. And the other people that work with me, got to take the day off, which is nice because they spend all year long working really hard, and it's nice that I can stand in there and let them take the day off for Christmas Day, which they, most people have something to do with, whereas most of us know that it's all a bit of a kind of con anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And what was interesting is that so many people expressed how little Christmas spirit they had, which was interesting.
Right.
I certainly didn't have any, and I chose to hibernate, and it was wonderful. I had a great time being mostly on my own.
Right.
And just enjoying watching videos, crocheting, getting outside a little bit, but the weather's been weird, very fierce winds, rain, snow, the whole gamut. So it's nice to hibernate. Can you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what winter's all about. It's nice to feel that it's okay to do that, isn't it?
Yeah. And one video, I just actually watched this one today. It was great. Thank you, Bindi, for turning me on to Teal Swan. A young man was having issues with his father in regards to money and his lifestyle. And her conclusion was so helpful for me to see. Can you hear me or not hear me?
Yes, it's faint, but I can hear you.
Okay. Was that by making our love conditional as to you're behaving the way we want you to is so abusive, which is what parents traditionally do to their children. Society does to us, our friends, our neighbors all do that to us, especially when you go down the no-name road. To become prime targets for that kind of abuse. And I had not seen it as abuse until seeing it the way Teal Swan did. So I think it's called You Can't Have Money Because of Your Family, or You Can't Earn Money. I'll post the link in the room, but it was great. It was like, wow. So different things like that were very enlightening for me too.
Yeah, that's interesting to observe that sort of thing. And I've realized that the people that are completely non-judgmental are few and far between. So there are people, if they don't approve of what you're doing, they're going to be judgmental, and then that conditional love comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting, and it's good to become aware of such circumstances and ways of behaving. So definitely that's something that's very interesting to observe and be aware of. Now, to kind of go in line with that, I think we both came across this, a new recording from our dear brother, Garrett John Laporto goes by. He's the creator of the Wayseer Manifesto and many other wonderful things, the Wayseer sort of like movement and stuff. And he put a message out in the middle of December, I think it was right before Christmas, so probably a week ago, about how you change people. And that's something that we normally sort of would think, well, how do we change people? But the way he describes it's something that we've talked about on this show a lot before. And it's about when you see the good in people and the beauty of them and you acknowledge it, you keep seeing more and more of it. And he has a very eloquent way of describing things. And I want to share that with everyone tonight now. For anyone that hasn't seen it, you can go to his YouTube channel, but I've downloaded it as an MP3 so I can play it on here. I suppose I could have played it on YouTube too. But yeah, I'm just going to play here. So I'll share the screen again so that I can play that.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that you guys can hear. And yeah, just appreciate him and his way of describing, how we do these things, how we can actually change people. He definitely has a really great way of putting stuff over. So when this thing manages to wake itself up, I think it's kind of slow. It doesn't like me putting this window up over the front of the whole page, and everything starts moving very slowly. So let's see if this is it loaded here or not. He just calls it how you change people. And it's definitely a very interesting recording. I just want to see if this is it. You
may not like how things are going. You may not agree with those who seem to have power over your happiness. But here is a great secret of life. You have way more influence than you realize. Gandhi called this influence truth force, love force, soul force. It is the inherent power in you to conjure the truth and the very best in other people. It is the power in you to change people's hearts and minds by changing the way you see them, by changing the way you observe them. Nobel physicist Max Planck said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Scientists have discovered that when a teacher is merely told a student has a higher IQ, that student's IQ rises to meet the teacher's expectations. Expecting the best from people brings out the best in people. But the reverse is also true. Seeing the worst in people brings out the worst in people. Your consciousness has the power to conjure the very best or the worst in everyone you observe, even at a distance. Our friends, our families, our children, our co-workers, our police, even our presidents. We have the power to change each and every one of their hearts and minds simply by changing our own hearts and minds about them. We all have darkness in us, but we also have the light. And in every moment we have another chance, another choice of whether darkness or the light is given reign over our consciousness. What you stand witness for in others is strengthened in them by the power of your observation. When you look for the worst in someone, when you make them wrong in your mind, when you refuse to see the best in them, you are committing a spiritual assault of the worst kind. For you are testifying against their ability to choose the light, standing witness for the darkness in them, and strengthening its power over their heart and mind. If you've ever faced a hostile crowd, a hostile cop, a hostile lover, you felt the destructive force of another's contempt for you. Do not give in to this way of seeing. Stand witness for the light in others. The unassailable divine spark forever shines in the hearts of every man, woman, and child, just waiting to be called forward. When you call on the divine spark in someone, you lend it the strength to prevail in their consciousness. The power of your divine witnessing calls forth the truth in other people's minds. It calls forth the love in their hearts. It calls forth the grace and the beauty of their souls. Divine witnessing is the most powerful form of nonviolence because it heals the very source of violence. It turns your enemies into friends, even when you thought they were deplorable and wrong. In a place where you see no light, you make your own. You call upon the divine spark within you and invite it to reveal itself in those who oppose you. The divine spark in your heart ignites itself in others through the blazing light and love of your consciousness. Witness for that, strengthen that, insist upon that. The truth in me calls out to the truth in you, for it is only that I will stand witness to. It is only that I am determined to see. It is only that I will testify for. For to condemn you would be to condemn me, and we are the same. And so I insist on regarding you as true and good and wise and kind. And so it will be, because that is what we all want to see.
Mm.
That's what we all want to see.
Wow. He speaks truth. Nice. Yeah, so anybody that wants to go back and look at that again, it's I think his YouTube is just Garrett John, and I think you'll find it on there, and it's how you change people. So that was some great wisdom there. Great wisdom. That whole thing about if you tell someone else they're wrong, you're wrong too, because we are the same. It's that whole thing about that we're all in this together, that we're all creating the same thing, and we see the worst in others. That's what's going to come out in them. And it's really so interesting to recognize that, because once you start to actually act that way in seeing the best in people, you just keep seeing more and more of the best side of them.
Well, that was what was so interesting in Teal Swan, was that she was telling the young man to imagine having interactions and questioning the behavior to see, was it really a psychopath behind there or a loving, kind person who would then witness through him trying to figure out why this was happening. It was very deep for me anyways, because I hadn't really resonated with Teal Swan before, but I suddenly saw the depth of where because she's kind of pushy, right? I mean,
Yes.
her people, but in a really good way to help them see their blocks, and not as a judgment, but to help free ourselves from those blockages that are basically since we're 2 years old and up, as we do our encounters with the world. And so, well, yeah, thanks to Garrett, he really put
yeah, it's great to be reminded of all these things, because most of them we do know, but when we get those reminders, especially such powerful ones like you were talking about, what you've got to recognize via Teal Swan's message and then this message from Garrett John, they're just pointers, they're reminders, say, look, you know this stuff, act on it, do it, be it, live it. And when we do, when we stay observant, you can see the difference in your own life experience because of those around you. I mean, when we're completely alone, that's one thing. But when you're having to interact with others, it's amazing the difference when you start to see the good. You go past, you might happen to observe something that someone's doing that you feel is not good, but you look past that and you see the things that are the type of thing that you like to, how you like to be yourself, how you feel is the way that humane beings behave and act towards each other. And the whole thing about us being there for each other to support and encourage. When you see those that are doing their best and their part to, like, especially when you're working with a team of others and you see that you're all interacting and doing your part, and it becomes an employment when everyone is participating with the best heart. And when you see the good parts in everyone, then after a while you don't really see any of those things that you don't like so much. You see more and more and more of the things, the good parts and the parts that you call good, because those are the parts that resonate. I mean, I'm not saying we're trying to change people into being like ourselves, because that wouldn't be cool, but I guess it's about just seeing those, observing and acknowledging those traits that shows that that other living being is humane and supportive and doing their best for where they're at and what's going on around them. It's definitely a very interesting way to go through this life experience with those different ways of looking, like that whole quote of when you change the things, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
It's so simple but so true.
Yeah, and being a joyful person and making a difference for someone, opening the door, being kind, you know, just seeing where you can bring a spark of joy into people's life. Like going to see my friend in the nursing home on Christmas Day. And it was another friend that wanted to go. She wanted to bring a spark of joy. And we did. And that was sweet. You know, there was also all the stuff that goes on in the nursing home to amplify how important that spark of joy was to our friend, potentially, if she could still be here, but she's not. So it's kind of like that dance is still playing. You're here, we love you. You may not remember next second that we were here and that we love you, but we are. And accepting it, it may just be a fleeting, if anything. Yeah, doing the best we can to pass our love along.
Yeah.
How we can, not how someone else wants us to, but how we can. And that's, I think, important too. That becomes abusive when you're doing it to please someone, as opposed to just doing it. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's a really important point to make sure that all this stuff is like a really, it's all about balance again. Let's go back to that balance thing about, you've still got to be, you know, like here we're talking about saying, you know, how you see others is how you change them. But at the same time, they've got to be able to be themselves as well. So you don't want to sort of, like I was saying before, I don't want to change them all to being like me, because there's nobody else like me. We're all different. But I think it's about this, we perceive, we're looking at the they. Who are they? The baddies.
I guess, what is our energy field bringing into a room or not? Just the energy field.
Yes.
Energy field heavy and negative.
Right.
Get out of my way.
Yes.
I had moments of bah humbug. Like, I really wanted to make sure that I didn't get pulled into stuff I didn't want to. So there was a bah humbug. But I was able to explain that boundary of just wanting to be where I was to those that wanted to take me into their Christmas gatherings, and not appear ungrateful. Instead, receive the gift of being allowed to be me, and them allowed to be those that would invite me, but would love me anyways if I didn't. You know what I mean? Rather than feel like, oh, I gotta go because being who you are and being okay with it. But make your field as sweet as it can be. Now, and I don't mean a fake sweetness, just there's no point in laboring as to why you are in your state. Just accepting that you're in the state of wanting to be in a den, but loving the fact that there are people around that would like to help. You know what I mean? It's a delicate dance of feeling obliged and recognizing what you need in this moment. And is it okay to give you what you need?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I often think, you know, this show was spawned from us recognizing the truth about what the legal name actually is. And, you know, some of the time we just sort of mention it in passing and on it goes. Because, and I think, you know, that's not such the biggest focus on these conversations now, although we embrace every story people come in with from having experiences because of their awareness of what the legal name is. But really, at the end of the day, what it means is that we know what it's trying to do, and that is control us in a very, very brutal and horrible way. Like, what did I say? It's horribly brilliant. But being aware of what it is and what it can do to us, like you mentioned earlier when we were having a quick chat, that you don't want to get sucked back into the extent that you'd have to do taxes and stuff like that. Because I don't either. I've no desire to get back into it to any depth that I would have to participate in its insidiousness, its whole pullingness. So the fact that we're aware of what it is and what it's trying to do makes us know, we know what we don't want, and that makes us know what we do want, and we want to live in more of doing exchange. Like you're talking about, you're being creative, you're making these lovely slippers and various other beautiful things to exchange, and that's what I feel that ultimately that's all any of us really want to have to do, is to be creative, because that's who we are. And with the things we create that we don't need ourselves, that we can exchange them with other people that are being creative and step over that whole matrix thing ultimately. So this conversation is really about what can we do to get to where we want to be? What do we need to know? These whole conversations about, like what Garrett John has shared and what Teal Swan shared, those are all things to get into our awareness. They're, like I was saying to you earlier, they're really reminders, because we do actually know all this stuff. A lot of us, particularly even in this sort of like reality, we know it, but as souls and you know, greater beings, we know all this stuff. But having reminders like that from each other really helps us to know, well, it helps us to be our true, authentic, beautiful, loving, kind and creative selves. And it also allows us to see where we don't want to be, who we don't want to be, what we don't like. And it makes us aware of where we want to be, what we want to do, and what we do like, what we do want, what we don't want. And really, I just invite anyone to share any of their stories as to how they've become aware of what's a program, and you're just working through these programs. And I see people in programs in the horse world where I'm at, and some of it kind of works, because especially when we have a language barrier, we've got a lot of Spanish speaking people that work with horses, and some of them the language is, you know, not that easy to get across, but they're in a program and they know, you know, you have to do this at this time and that at that time and the other time. And it's all well and good when it works and it's a program. But then I'm like, but today we shouldn't do it like that, because this is going on with this horse and that's happening to that one. And it would be better if we did it a bit different. And that's when I really observe programs. And that happens throughout lives until you become aware that they exist and that we're working out of programs. Like everything we do is a program. And when you've got a system that's going on, that's a complete program. You get up in the morning, you have your breakfast, you go get in your car, and you drive to work, and you do your work, and you have stop for a break, and you go for lunch, and you come back, and you work a bit more, and you do this, that, and you get back in the car, and you drive home, and you have your dinner, and you watch the TV, and then you go to bed. That's a complete program, and so many people are in that completely unaware that they're in a program. And I think what's happened differently for us is that we know all those things are programs, and that we can change anything we choose to change. So what I'm just trying to say is that... What's that?
I'm losing you. Or maybe
okay.
Everybody's
fading out.
You're totally...
Okay. Yeah, so if you can hear me, I'm just like, making that observation and making that comment that this whole Stories from the Heart has spawned from us sharing our stories, from having the awareness of what the legal name is and is trying to do to keep us under control.
Anybody else having hearing problems? You are? Okay. Yeah, you're...
Yeah.
And do you have your headphones on?
Well, I mean, I've got my big mic here, so it shouldn't be...
Yeah, now you're fine.
The mic, yeah, it's sitting here, so having the headphones really is so that the sound doesn't come from the speakers. But yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring that up because, this is supposedly all about legal name fraud and deception and all that stuff, but the picture is so much bigger than just that awareness. And but the awareness of it is huge, to know that that's going on. And I think that's the biggest thing. We've acknowledged that before, and that we do end any spiritual agreements and contracts of that legal name. But there's quite a lot more that we can do beyond that to get ourselves to a place where we want to be in. This is another conversation I've had, is like, okay, so what do we want here? Do we want to be here? Do we want to disappear into another realm? I was having a chat with somebody recently, and we were sort of saying that, perhaps if we create that environment in which to live, where we're living with the land, with nature, we're being creative, we're sharing our creative manifestations, we're creating, making things, and we're sharing them and exchanging with them, and we're living in this environment whereby we're living in employment on the land. Maybe we'll just slip through the veil. Maybe we'll be on that land and living on lovely little tiny homes and little hobbit houses, and we're growing stuff and whatever, and suddenly we'll be like, everybody else around us is doing the same. Maybe we'll just slip through that veil. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Imagine that.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that idea too. I thought maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's what we need to do. So that's what I'm heading to do. That's my vision, is to create the ability to live with nature, which we now have also observed is not perfect either, because it's consuming itself. But maybe we'll slip through onto that genuine earth that's not all consuming. If we start to live that way as best we can, given the environment we're in that is all consuming, and that we'll become minimalists, and we're living in harmony with the plants and the animals as best we can, and we're being creative and loving and kind and helpful to each other and supportive, we just could slip on through. Wouldn't that be nice? Bring it on, I say. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anyone that's is able to share any stories with us today. I see that Mr. Lowe, no legal names with us, but he might have lots of noise around him because we know that happens in his home. And
that can happen.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what else I can share. I mean, it's about it's all about that recognition of who and what we are and what we could be, and what can we do to get to where we want to be. What can we, we've got ourselves into these places that we don't want to be. Like, so many of us have got ourselves into these, I mean, like a lot of us that are, listening here and whatever, have got ourselves out of where we don't, because we realize these jobs and stuff were not cool. And we've got out of that, and now it's a bit of a struggle to support the being, the living body, without those so-called jobs. So it's just quite an interesting thing, this is what these stories, yeah. He's got five boys, not just the 3, 5. Oh my goodness, that must be, pretty wild. That's, no legal name, left us a message there to let us know. So yes, it is too loud for him to jump in at the moment. But yeah, we're all doing the best we can with this awareness. Like you said, you don't want to jump through those hoops to go and get help from the flipping system, because it means feeding the body.
If I did tax, if I did my taxes, and if I asked for welfare, most likely I would get it, but I would need to do both of those things to get that. And there's no way I want to start doing taxes again. I mean, I haven't done them in quite a few years. So it's like, okay, so I got to manifest. I got to find more ways to find other sources of income that are not related to the system, to do with exchange, to find a household that really does understand the value. But that's far and few between. Most landlords want rent. The power companies still want cash. The internet companies still want dollars. Everybody. This is why, to be free from the system, you really have to not be using any of it. And
That's right.
We all use it. I love having hot running water. I love having power.
Right.
And I've done without it, and I'd rather have it. And I love having internet. I do have to be judicious with it so that I don't spend too much time on it. But it's these things that still trap us in the system. Now, if we were all living somewhere in the woods, wouldn't we want to still have that connection with the other virtual family? Or would that all be cut off? Or do we reach a higher level of telepathic and teleportation and all where I feel we're headed, which is to becoming that bubble of energy like La Belle Verte that could move from one place to another. That's a really good movie. I'm sure we've talked about it, but I'm going to mention it again. It's called La Belle Verte.
It's called what?
Beautiful Green. The Beautiful Green.
Oh yes, I got to see half of it, and I never got to see the whole of it. So I would like to go and see the rest of that. Yeah, when I was at Reykjanes.
I had to look far for a video. In the end, I just put it in that Belle Verte free movie, and I eventually found a link for it. I can look for it again and put it in the Instagram. But it's
I must watch the rest. Thanks.
Transport herself, and then they transported. It goes through a bubble of energy. And they went from a planet to another planet.
That's right.
It's like, that's got to be one of the ways we will be able to move ourselves, if not just.
Yes. Yeah. You see, that's a version of what I was talking about, of this potential that if we go and start to live with nature and live from our hearts and be creative and be loving and kind with each other, what if that just led us to just slip on through to the side where it is natural and it's non-consuming and it's complete enflowment with everyone around, everything around you.
Yeah, I really, I mean, in Heart Song Land, it seems to be the inspiration for some of us to gather together in, and as will other places be where people start to gather.
Yeah, yeah. Like minds, like-hearted, like-mind beings with the same vision and intention, then I feel that it is possible to at least live harmoniously with the land and the way nature is at the moment, in these moments of now. And it just was a conversation I was having with someone who goes by Jacob, and I got to have a lovely chat with him about a week ago. Might have been the day after the show, the day after that, Friday maybe. And that kind of came up as we were talking along through it. And I was saying, you know, that's what I want to do. I want to live on the land, to be creative and, interact with nature as best I can, and be loving and kind with everyone around. And it just suddenly felt, oh, maybe that's when we'll just slip on through to the real, genuine, slip on through, just slip sliding away, right? slip on through, and we suddenly, I mean, imagine like living there on this lovely land that we've got, and we're creating, we've got our little homes, and we're growing things, and we go down our little driveway, and we come to the end, and we come onto a road, and most of the time it's the way it is, and all these houses with satellite dishes and whatever's on. And then maybe one day we'll get to the end of the little driveway, and we'll find ourselves on a little kind of track and trail, and we might go along it, and we might suddenly say, oh no, there's some other people there, they're doing the same as us, look at that. And along another one, and then we realise that everyone around us is living the same as us. Everyone, everywhere. And there's not so much, there's only gentle little buildings, and no massive great monstrosities anywhere, and no wires and cables and damage to natural land, and everyone's just living in harmony and balance with the land around them. That's when we know we've slipped through, when everyone's doing the same as us. And
you're really breaking up on you.
Right, that's a shame. But I don't know what I can do about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting 5 of your 10 words right now.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. But that was feeling very nice. Yeah. Yeah, so I was just saying, you know, what if everybody is literally living the same as us? Like, we'll know we've slipped through if we go down the end of our little driveway and get to the end of it and set off along, and there's no old cars and modern stuff going around. There's just people living in their little areas with their own little homes and just living in harmony and balance with each other. We all know we've slipped through then. It'll be just employment all around. So, that's what I see.
For us. It's quiet down there, but you may be able to jump in once if you keep breaking up. I'm going to tell you, Cyril, jump in if you can.
We'll jump in any time. I'm just kind of filling in.
Not sure whether it'll be quiet or not.
He said, well, when it's quiet down here, so we'll have to give him a chance. Get him a chance to get it quiet around there. So, well, that's okay, because I actually can envision what's going on there, because having been able to visit there, I can imagine what's going on. Now there's 5 boys instead of 3. That's even more to manage. So that's okay. Yeah. So
another question from our brothers. Everyone's connect icon a bit choppy, so yours keeps turning red then yellow. I have no idea what mine turns, and I can't see anybody else's connection, so if you're choppy, coming in choppy too, legal name rather. I don't know. How's yours looking, Lotus? Your connection is good? Oh, well, the energies are pretty strong right now with all the different
Yeah.
blessings going around the planet. Love.
Yeah. We're heading. Yeah, we're heading right into this 2017 year as well. So that could make a difference. You never know. So.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Well, everybody seems to be coming through pretty well, but every now and then I'll lose you. It seems a little more, it seems more choppy than normal. There's probably a lot of traffic on the net right now.
True.
Due to the holidays.
Right. That could be it.
So we're probably, yeah, we're exceeding bandwidth all over the planet, which is good, which is very good. The internet has offered us the opportunity to do 2 ways and 3 ways and 4 ways and multiple ways, where before the internet it was just one way, brainwashing downloads into the TV or the
radio. Right. True.
Yeah, so I do have a story I can share. This has been a crazy week because we've all heard the familiar saying, when it rains, it pours. Such has been the case. And so here we are going into the Christmas holiday, and my middle boy, his given name is Dark, and he decides to develop an abscess in one of his baby teeth. And so I start that day. He wakes us all up at the middle of the night, screaming in pain, crying. It's very tumultuous. And so
that shit
as soon as everybody knows when the teeth go to hurting,
that
you
hurts.
can't think about anything.
Yes, I've been there. Yes,
we've all been through that.
Yes.
Well, this little guy is only 9 years old. He's just 9 years old in the current body, and he's just having a time of it. So I get on the phone and I start calling around, and I call about 20 different dentists. But what's interesting is the first or second one I call, they said, we don't have an opening to see anybody, but give me the name and number and we'll call you back in case something develops, if there's an opening. And I said, okay. So I gave them the information and continued to call about 18 or 19 other people, and they all said, no, we're all closed, there's no openings. And then at about 19 or 20, I get a phone call, and it's it's the second dentist that I called, and they said, we do have an opening, come on in about 3 hours. And so that's what I did. I took Dark into the dentist, and they did x-rays and all this. But as people with kids know, when you go into these places, they want you to sign what's called a HIPAA document. Are you guys familiar with that? It's legalese.
Okay. No.
And I don't sign legalese.
Right,
so,
I know that.
But I approached it a little differently this time, because I'm oftentimes involved with, in the past, it's become confrontational. And so my life experiences in 2016 have helped to bring clarity to different ways of dealing with people who are steeped in the matrix, the ones who are hopelessly inured.
Right.
And so when they give you the little clipboard with a pen,
right,
and all this information, but then it gets real thick when it comes to the legalese. And so I fill out the pertinent information, like are there any problems with medications like penicillin, any adverse reactions, any allergies, etc. All that's very important. But then in the bottom of all of these things, which is kind of interesting because it's not on the top, it's on the bottom. And it's the HIPAA statement. and I turn the page, and there it is, and it's glossa.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's not even.
What's it mean?
And so I'm like, well, you know, I'm definitely not going there, but I'm going to approach this a different way. So I give it the clipboard, and I'm waiting. You know, I put my hands together, and I'm waiting for them to, because, you know, part of their job description is to go through those papers and to look for those signatures, right? They're looking for the bonding element, which is the signature. And so they get to the HIPAA statement, and they're like, well, this needs to be filled out. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I just don't understand anything that I'm seeing on those papers. I don't, when I look at those papers, I'm drawing a blank. I don't even see English in a lot of it. And they're just like, and this particular dentist, the receptionist was, she was very receptive to that. And she said, no problem.
Wow.
No problem whatsoever. No need to go there. But she did quickly attempt to explain, but you know, it was just a real quick attempt, and I just said, yeah, look, you know, I'm not going to sign anything I don't understand. And so that's how that went.
Cool.
But it's interesting because just prior to that, we went in and got antibiotics for the kids due to potential strep. And when I went to the pharmacy, they're like, or no, when I went to that particular not a pediatrician, it's a general practitioner, because we do not use pediatricians at all, nor will we.
Right.
We use general practitioner at this point.
Right.
And so the receptionist at that particular GP said, this has to be filled, this has to be signed, the HIPAA statement. I said, well, again, I don't understand that. And she said, she attempted to explain it. And just consider the folly of a general practitioner's, a receptionist at a general practitioner. She does not have bar membership. She does not have the legal knowledge, experience, and skills to even begin to explain what a HIPAA statement means, what the import of a HIPAA statement is. And she was attempting to do that. And but what happened is this. She said, this is to protect your privacy. This is just us acknowledging that we are not going to share any of your medical information with other people without your consent. And I looked at her and I said, I take you at your word.
Nice.
And as soon as I said that, the GP just happened to walk by. This is a guy we've been to before. And he said, she began to give me a little bit of, what you call it, static.
Attitude.
So, a little bit of attitude. She again tried to re-explain. And before she could get far, the lady next to her said, he's refusing to sign. That's okay. Just put refuse. And then with that, the general practitioner doctor said, yeah, he'd probably need an attorney to interpret what's in that document.
Wow. Oh, really?
God, watch them germinate. Woohoo!
All right, man. That's what it is. I mean,
Wow.
and truly.
Wow. Acknowledgement.
I'm not from the society that did write the members of that juridical temple bar priest society. I'm not even there. I'm not even recognizing what I'm reading. And yeah, they all got it. To what degree, I don't know. But he later, that general practitioner later said, everybody signs that. You're the only person that's never not signed that. You're the only one that's ever come into the office and never signed that.
Wow. Wow. See, it shows how oblivious people are. They just do as they're told.
Right. And, you know, the way I read, say slow to fast, 5 being the fastest. I read right about 3 and 4 area. Read and comprehend.
Right.
And for me to read just the HIPAA document and comprehend just the, and really we can't comprehend it because it's written with all these different intentions because it's written by the priests.
Right.
But for me just to go through it and basically comprehend it, not fully and profoundly comprehend it,
Right.
And certainly not ever adequately comprehend it because I'm not right there with the author of the document going back and forth with him or her.
Right.
But it would take me a minimum 45 minutes. 45 minutes to read that particular document,
Wow.
the HIPAA statement.
Wow. Yeah.
So what I did find, yeah, so as I was kind of leafing through it, I was just hitting the high points. One thing I did find of interest was that information, once you sign the document, you are agreeing to allow for any information that you exchange between the doctor and like patient and doctor, you're agreeing to allow for that information to be transmitted over to CPS.
Ha.
So, yeah, so it's really, it's more than just a notice. It is a contract that is, in this thing, that particular clause of the contract is tucked away on like the second or it's like the third or fourth page area. It's kind of, you know, they know people aren't going to read down to that level. Most people hate legal stuff. They hate law stuff, and they are completely, you know, at odds. Their spiritual being is at odds with all things legal. I'm that way. Most people around me are that way. The difference between me and most people is I had to go there in order to comprehend the extent of the matrix, and that was truly enlightening for me. I don't even need to go there now because I get it, but it's fascinating to see these contracts that people get themselves into with the stroke of a pen. And you've got these receptionists who are pushing this, and so the lesson that this gave to me is, and that I would like to share with other people is, when they put something in front of you, if it doesn't feel right, if you don't understand it, meaning you're not willing to stand under it in every way,
right,
then you need to say that. Be honest. Say, I don't understand this.
Yes.
And that's so important because you can't fault a man for not doing something that he doesn't understand. If he doesn't understand something on a piece of paper,
exactly,
no one in the right mind is going to compel them to do that. And if they were to do that, you know, if they were to go down that road, these receptionists say, look, you know, I don't understand what this writing is all about, what these spells are about. You know, what will happen if I don't sign a document that I don't understand?
Right.
What will happen today? And so just as king, be as king by asking.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the message that I get from all that, from my life experiences to the current, is be more asking oriented, be inquiring, because the problems that we're experiencing today is because we're not inquisitive enough. We're not curious enough, and we're not bringing that curiosity into a thought form, which is a question.
Exactly.
And putting it into that other point of view, which is sitting across from you, the receptionist, for example.
Yeah.
They're just another point of us. They're our brothers and sisters over there, but they're in a program.
Exactly.
Going through it.
Yeah.
So in the way, the way to defeat said programming is to be more inquisitive.
Yes.
You know, I don't understand this. Do you understand this? If you understand this, it must mean that you're an attorney. Are you an attorney? No. Okay, well, this is clearly a legal document. We don't want to go down this road unless we're attorneys, do we?
Right. Yeah. It's
so it all went well. Never signed anything that they wanted me to sign regarding the legal thing. Legal documents, never signed any of that.
Right.
When I did put a mark on the paper, it was a given name only.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I do that is because these people are so badly programmed that if they start seeing a troublemaker at the door, they just go straight to the authorities, the so-called authorities. And there's no need to really go to create an alert in their program.
Sure.
And you know, because it's almost like they're trained to look for things out of the ordinary.
Yes.
In order, it's like they're hunting constantly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the healthcare field, it's gotten so bad. But the way to deal with it, from my experience, is to just be asking, constantly asking.
Yeah.
And that will diffuse a lot of situations. It will create more the environs of learning, as opposed to I'm here to be autonomous and not connected. So by means of asking, we're a lot more connected, I think, because we really are trying to figure things out. We're trying to have a meeting of the minds with the people that are sitting across the table from us. We really are. Oftentimes we already know what the answer is. We know what the deal is. But by asking questions, both of us can share, you know, in that wonderment, which, you know, at a minimum, asking question pauses programming. It pauses
It does.
the protocol. It doesn't nix it completely. It doesn't eliminate the protocol, but it does pause it, and that's important. Because when you have a pause, you have an exception. And when you have an exception to the program, you can have a fault in the program, and you can just shut it down that way. You can shut it down through an exception or a fault in the code. Does that make sense? It's not that you're saying everybody's wrong. You're just saying there's an exception here, and let's just go. You know, this living being is going into the exception box. He's not in the standard programming, and as long as he's in the exception box, everything's fine. But if he goes into the hostility box, then we're gonna this things could get out of hand, right? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Let me close the door right quick. I've got y'all going and not closing the door. Hold on. we got a couple friends of the kids over that
right.
hanging today, and we all went and saw a movie. They saw a movie called Sing.
Oh, nice.
And then I split off from them to go watch Passengers with Mockingjay chick. What's her name? Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is fascinating, guys. Everyone needs to go see Passengers or somehow see it, because it's about a guy that woke up way too soon, and he was all alone on the ship with a robot. And he had 90 more years to go before he came to his destination. So he woke up like a lot of us, if we feel like we've woken up too early, right?
Right. Yes.
And then he after a year of being alone, this guy says, you know, I think I'm going to wake up a lady friend, a lady that I really like. And that's what he did. But he didn't tell her he woke her up. He just said it was just an accident that you woke up too early. Yeah, so when she found out, she had a lot of resentment toward him, because she did not want to be woken up. And we're all in this situation, are we not? People in our life, they don't want to be woken up. So it's interesting how there's a lot of recognition of the reality that is.
Yes.
The consciousness that we're becoming more involved consciously. We're becoming more awake. We're becoming more aware. And the creative artists they're manifesting these ideas and this actual reality in movies.
Yes. That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. They're putting it all in the movies. Everything is there for us to see. We just have to have our eyes to see and ears to hear.
That's right. It's all disclosure. And it's not only disclosure, it's kind of a mirror, I think, that's going on right now. There's a lot of mirroring going on. They're saying that the consciousness becoming, it's increasing, and they're seeing it, and they're just simply, it's almost like, especially with sci-fi group of people that are intrigued by science fiction stories and films. There's a greater number of people who are more intrigued by the nightly news. And yeah,
too many.
And the people that watch Star Trek, for example, I was a big Trekkie years ago,
right.
Always have, and they can smell a lie immediately. And so the best way to play a Star Trek or a science fiction film or story is to be, at a minimum, mirror the actual reality. You're not gonna get one over on a sci-fi buff. They think too much. They think and they feel too much. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, very. Wow, that's good stories. That's interesting to see the people in their programs, but yet accepting that you're not going to just conform and do what everybody else does in the way of signing these things that you don't understand. So that's kind of progress in its own.
It is, and the approach is not to decline, just as a principle of declining, which we all have we can decline anything we want to, but it's to come across with a soft decline, not a hard decline.
Right.
It seems like the automatons that act as receptionists, a soft decline is so much different than a hard decline. They're used to hard decline because hard declines do not take a lot of finesse. It doesn't take a lot of thought.
Right.
You just decline. And they know how to deal with that. So it's like a lot of things. It's the first person, or the first party to say no is the one that loses. Because when you say no, it creates an emotional controversy at a minimum.
Yeah.
And but yeah, sometimes you got to do that at some point. But when it comes to like these situations with doctors, with those of us with kids that we watch over, these doctors, they can be very hostile. And in these teams of people that can be very hostile. So it's important to defeat their programming by simply telling them the truth. I don't understand what's being put in front of me. No doctor is going to sign something he doesn't understand.
Right.
Actually, I'm sure they do. But because they sign legal stuff all day long, and they have no clue what's being said on that legal document, because they're not also attorneys. But you don't even have to argue. You don't have to even defend yourself when you say, I'm not signing something because I don't understand. There's no defense required. It's just proof is self-evident.
Right. Well, I mean, all of those, I mean, people do tell you that you have to read and understand something before you sign it. It's actually normal protocol to do that. And so many people just can't be bothered to just sign it because you want whatever the end result is. But at least you have the option to say, look, I don't understand it, so therefore I'm not going to sign it. So they have to accept that. They have to acknowledge that if you don't understand it, you can't sign it. So it was a really good way to go through that.
Yeah. And at one time it was a protocol and a program in and of itself that they just simply didn't sign things or agree to things that they didn't clearly understand.
Right, that's right. And we got programmed to just do it, to conform and comply and get on with it and do as you're bloody well told. But it's
right.
If you've got the gumption to say, look, no, I don't understand it, and don't think you're just, people are sort of like, well, they think I'm stupid if I say I don't understand, so I pretend I do. Right? So
right.
At least you don't care if anybody thinks you're stupid, that you don't understand what it says, because you're being at least straight up and honest about it in actual fact.
Right. Well, it would be clear, it would be clearly accurate, as far as I'm concerned, when I read a legal document like HIPAA with lots of glossa, and I know who wrote it. I know the kind of people that wrote it. They're part of a society that I'm not a member of,
Right.
and they're at odds with. They're a parasitical class, and they work in the world of the dead, and I work in the world of the living. But it's clearly accurate for me to say I don't understand what they're doing, because I don't. If I did, I might be one of them, and I'm not. I mean, it's antithetical to everything that I am. I'm alive, and I promote life, and I'm more of a healer, not a hacker, the way these guys are in the legal society. And I'm an idiot, legally speaking. Legally, in legalese, I'm an idiot. I mean, it's extremely fair and accurate for me to be termed that way. It's not. It's not that I'm an idiot, like ignorant or stupid or anything like that. It's just that that's an area that takes quite a few years and membership privilege.
Sure.
Okay, the privilege that a dues paying member of the legal society pays in order to get preferential treatment. When they write those documents, they're quite immune, because they're just, in most of our fields that are listening to this show, it's most people want nothing to do with it. Much, and obviously if we're not a dues paying union member of that club, then why on earth would I ever sign any of their creations, their legal works? It's like signing a book. Would I go and pick up a book and pick up a stack of books that Margaret Mitchell wrote and put them on a table and put a sign out and says author signing day, or book signing day, and start writing my signature to Margaret Mitchell's works? No, I wouldn't do that. Well, that's what they're asking us to do at these doctors' offices when they say sign the HIPAA statement. They're asking you, then one who is clearly not the author of this legal work called HIPAA statement, to sign that work as if it were. Because when you sign that HIPAA statement or whatever legal document they put in front of you, the only authors that are expressed on that document is your signature, right? Because there's no one else's name on it.
Oh, interesting. Right.
I mean, it's an incredible act of fraud, from another perspective. So, but you don't want to get into that kind of conversation with these people, because you're going to throw them for a loop.
Yeah.
I don't understand them. That's all there's to it. If that's a problem, you got to tell me why I need to sign something I don't understand. Sorry, honey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a way to go with it. There's no point in signing stuff, any stuff, especially stuff that you don't understand, and especially if it's in another language like flipping glossa.
That's right.
That's
what they call it. I think Rohan's calling it dog Latin now.
Right. Yeah.
Well, certainly, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but the thing is just there's no permissions for that kind of writing, for all capitalized sentences, words, not English.
Yeah.
It's like I by a judge, and I said yes, I do. And so if glossa is presented to me, if it's put in front of me, I don't understand that, because that's clearly not English.
Yes.
Right. So there you go.
Yeah.
The rules are right in front of you. The disclosure is right in front of you. You just have to take the time and have the temerity to look into all of this and to see how the matrix works. And very few people are willing to do that outside attorneys. Even attorneys, many of them don't have a lot of ideas as to how all this is working. So, but hey, you can tell them, and they're going to get it pretty quick.
Yeah, for the moment, it suits them to keep going along in the way it is, because they're making a lot of this FRN stuff out of it.
Right.
Position.
Yeah, Yet they're acquiring energy through the ignorance differential. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's through fraud. It's when they start. It's when enough of us wake up, even just one of us, and we're look, the jig is up. I know how you guys are doing this, and this is how you're doing it. So now we have a meeting of the minds on how the fraud works. What are you going to do about it? And then they either just leave you alone, or by the mechanism of force, they proceed against you. And that is concerning, and that's cause for concern, because once the construct goes from force, from just fraud through words, through the wordplay, through legalese, and through ignorance of legalese, once it goes away from that just to straight up force, that's when there's going to be a lot of undoing of the matrix.
Yeah.
Because then the attorneys themselves will become vulnerable, because then they themselves, there's no way to write themselves out of the fraud if everything's just force, right? If it's just a total police state and all power is concentrated in just hands, instead of many hands. Right now, the power right now, legally speaking, is concentrated in a great number of legal hands, of attorneys that subscribe and respect to a certain degree that work that they've created. When that work fails because so many people know about it and how it's being done, and they just replace it with force, then it's all over. Then it's going to be, and then we're already in a state of anarchy, right? But it's going to be a truer state of anarchy when everything is just force. So, quite interesting times. Very interesting. It's quite a place to be, to have this knowledge and to see all of this unfolding.
Indeed, yes, it is. It is. It's as tough as it can be. It's really, like I was saying earlier, it's about having this awareness of what this legal stuff is, what this legal name is. Just to have the awareness is big in itself before you even do anything about it. Just to know this stuff, and not to just conform and comply to every single whim and every single demand. That makes a huge difference, just to have the awareness of it. So
yes,
yeah,
yes, and I've come across people who are like, why do I need to know this stuff? And it's like, why know anything? Why be aware of anything? Even if just having the awareness is your not you're as a human being, you have an intellectual and a heart-based aspect, mind and heart based, and you've got to use it. There's a reason that you have it. It's so that you can do what you came here to do.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of people, it's just too difficult for them to want to go there. They just would rather be asleep. They would rather just be reinserted into the matrix and and just like this movie, she was so upset when she was woken up, and she just wanted to stay asleep for the 90 years. And there's a lot to that movie that I'm sure others you'll see it and start getting to the anagogic of it. But yeah, to me, the whole movie, they're just telling us the way it's going down.
Interesting.
And yeah, anyhow. So, any other experiences out there other than mine? Or
yeah,
I know mine is a little thing, but
oh no, that's definitely a big important experience to share. Because that's stepping into the matrix of some degree, to go into those special, like you said, the medical part of the matrix is massive. So that's a really big one, that you managed to come out of there without signing any of that stuff. that's a really good achievement to do that without, like you said, you kind of you're declining, but in it softly, rather than saying no, I won't. It's like, well, I don't understand it, so I can't. It's a really good way around it.
It's kind of I hear a woman with an English accent saying, would you have me sign a document? No. Really, you would have to do this. Would you have your own mother do this? No. You get them on your side.
Yes, that's right.
You all you're doing is giving them a mirror and saying, look into this mirror.
There you go.
What you see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of what we were talking about earlier, you know, the more that you resonate with people and you see the good in them, and they're seeing the good in you, and you're being genuine in them and saying, look, I don't understand this, so I can't sign it. They have to feel it, you know, they have to feel that themselves when you do it that way.
Yeah, and you find that common ground.
Yeah.
And you join with them and they join with you.
Yeah.
And together, you're so much better off than separate and divided.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it comes right back down to, together. And what Garrett was talking about, just trying to find the good in people. So finding that common ground, because we do know within each human being there is good. It may not be easy to see, but if we're looking for it, we're more likely to find it than for it. So that's perfect. Thank you so much. I love your words of wisdom.
Getting a little bit louder in the background. I'll mute out for a little bit.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. That was really cool. Totally appreciate that. That was really good to know that you could do that. Instead of, them saying, no, we can't treat you then if you don't sign this. That was definitely, I think that was pretty good achievement, I think. So, nice job. I really think that's good. Yeah. So those interactions with the system, they're always interesting, especially when you can get somebody to actually appreciate you and acknowledge you and your view on it and your position on these things. When you say, look, I'm sorry, but I can't do this because. And that's the whole thing about these getting out of these programs. They're having, a lot of, like I was saying earlier, a lot of people are kind of doing stuff. And why are you doing it? They don't even think about why they are. It's just because they always have done something this way, or this is what I always do, or I see it all the time, all day long. I'm like, well, why do you do this like this? Because I used to just follow the instructions and do all the things. I was taught to do things a certain way, so I just always did them. Now I question everything. I'm like, well, why am I doing it this way? It's very good to ask why instead of just getting on and doing it all the time. So, I think that's really to be able to interact with the system in that way and actually say, look, I need to understand this. If I don't understand it, I can't do it. And it's the same with asking why. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this way? It's very important to ask why. Question everything. I love that little phrase. Question everything. It's really good. So, that's definitely a good one. A good one. Good story.
It is. Is there anybody else that wants to jump in? We've got quite a few people on the board, some of which I don't recognize, and some I do. I'd love to talk to or hear people's shares for what they've gone through with the system or with their families or whatever hard stories they may want to share with us.
Right, yeah, because we go all out with stories. But, if anyone's got anything, but if not, that's okay too.
Of course.
You can always finish up early if necessary, if there's no more stories to share, instead of me rattling on with the same old stuff over and over again. There's quite a lot going on in this house too, as you might be able to hear. I think somebody's just arrived. I think it might be their daughter, because they said she was going to be arriving later.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like God wants to say something in the background. I mean, dog.
Yeah, the dogs. Oh, those dogs, they're so funny. They're so cool. They do so much. Well, they're actually not they. The one, little one, the other one's deaf. And he doesn't woof much. But the little chap, he's always very vocal. So I'd say to him, he's got lots of important woofing to do every day. He has a very important woofing job. So he goes, woof, 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 woof. And I go, oh, hello, 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 hello. And what have you got to tell me? He goes, woof, 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 woof. I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. What else have you got to tell me? He goes, woof, 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 woof. That's really cool. So, yeah, he's a really sweet little chap. He's very little and he's very cute. So, yeah. They're good guys, and they've got a couple of awesome cats. Yeah, great family here in this little home here. We have good times here. It's a great spot to be. So yeah, I hear maybe I know Ra. Her mic's open. I don't know if you're trying to jump in there, Ra. I know you've had.
Hi.
Hi. Hey.
I got a quiet spot here.
Great.
For a few minutes. Yeah, I'll tell a little story. A few weeks back, I ran into a bank manager that I knew for quite a few years on a personal basis. Did business with her for quite a while. And she did some dirty, nasty deeds to us. And I ran into her a few weeks ago at a function that was going on downtown, and she was staring at me, and I was staring at her, and I knew who she was, but I think she was kind of drawing a blank. So I had walked over to her, and I said, "Do you remember me?" And she's looking at me, and I said to her, I'd just like to thank you because I've known you for quite a few years. And I was, involved with your banking system, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for showing me through your actions, your criminal intent towards us in a whole. And I appreciate that everything that you had shown me, what you were doing, because it opened my eyes to the banking system back in 2013, and they did some nasty stuff. I'm not going to go into it in the literal here, but in the end, after about 5 minutes of her listening to what I was saying, I had mentioned to her, check out legal name fraud, do a little bit of homework and see what you've been playing a part in, as I was. And she just spun and headed for back into the building. I was standing outside with the kids. And she had bolted back in the building. So I'm getting a good idea. She's the bank manager of a Commonwealth credit union, and I've known her for 20 years. But for some reason, she didn't see me that day. She didn't see her. Like, I know her, I've seen her, but I can't really remember. So I gave her a little bit of a reminder of what
she's been doing.
And I thanked her, because if it wasn't for her,
there you go.
What she was doing, I wasn't going to be able to see, what I mean, what was happening and what I was literally taking part in, because I was just as deep into it as she is.
Right.
So I was able to see that through her eyes and what she was doing in her actions. So I thanked her for showing me that. And I don't think she was very grateful. She didn't want
to look in the mirror.
Yeah. We're all responsible for everything that we do, and we think. I started smoking at 13 years old, and I was sitting talking about this with someone today. And I was 13 when I started, and I picked it up because I had seen certain things and I had heard certain things. Nobody forced me to do it. There was no peer pressure to do it. And now people, they turn around and they go, well, I smoked because, they put all this out and they addicted me. I was totally responsible for doing that, for picking up the smoking as a little girl. I was responsible for that. And that's how naive we were, because the seeds that were being planted, I never took the time to look into it. I just kind of went with the flow. Everybody was smoking, so this was the thing to do. So we kind of followed the lead of what everybody else was doing, and we've lost our free will choice on what, on the actions that we are. Now that I'm the age that I am, I've experienced what I am. I take full responsibility for everything that I've ever thought, everything I've ever, done, any action, anything. I am fully responsible for that. And that's why I talk to the kids about that all the time, about how they need to be responsible for what they think, what they feel, and what they do. Totally, this is on you, nobody else but you. And because watching the kids bicker amongst each other. And the first thing when you go over, well, what are you fighting about? Well, Naya did this or Ollie did this, and they're both blaming each other. And they're not taking responsibilities for how they're reacting to the experience themselves. And this is where it's really a challenge for the kids to see this, because this is very deep. Even with a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, they have, they're at the age of what they think 12, but at the age of 50 when it comes to the information that they have within their minds. So they have to kind of go back and start thinking for themselves and realize what they're doing. And they got to start being responsible for what they're saying and what they're doing and how they feel, everything. And I explained, I had a long conversation with her one day, explaining to her that she has full control over the mind. You can go anywhere you want within the mind. You can be the most evil that you want to be, but it's the actions. What are you going to do with that? How are you going to think? How are you going to walk through your life? How are you going to be? So this is a real challenge with the kids to not only deprogram myself, but through deprogramming myself, they're able to watch me, and I see everything. I mean, absolutely everything as a program. I try to see everything as a new. Even when I look at a tree, yeah, they say it's a tree, but I try to just see it for the beauty. That's why I said to Naya a couple of years back, we were walking through the bush and there was a cluster of flowers. I don't know if I said this on the show before. There was a cluster of flowers, and I called her over and I said, Naya, I said, look at this. And she's like, yeah. And I said, let's pretend there's no language. I said, would you look at that and would you put a title on it? Would you say, this is what it is? I said, or would you look at it and just admire it for the beauty of the creation within itself? That there's no labels, there's no titles here. And that's what's really a challenge, is to separate yourself from everything that you've been told. This is what it is. And that's where I really got it a couple of years ago, just staring at a dictionary. It wasn't even open. I was just looking at it and I was like, holy crap, everything is explained. Everything is explained. What's going on? The whole concept of living in life is explained in this, not only the Bible and all these other literatures, but the freaking dictionary. So this is where we have to take our imagination back, and we have to start thinking for ourselves and be responsible for what we do and what we say and how we feel. And I've just become where everything is absolutely anew for me. I have no expectations of anything or anybody, not even myself. I walk a fine line. I know what's right. I know what's wrong. And that's just how I walk, and where the way I walk and through my life, it affects anybody that comes into contact with me. So I've been just kind of riding the wave and going moment to moment. It's a moment to moment for me. Everything can absolutely change in the blink of an eye. That's why I have no expectations. I have no desires. I don't wish or want for anything. I just accept everything for what it is. And it's been really hard. I've really had to stand back and look at myself. And it's the only way that I can do it. It's the only way. I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself. I only know what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. So it's become, that's where the challenge is for me, is to be able to just separate everything else and go within to your own imagination and see things for yourself and how you see things around you. And I've been able to find a very comfortable balance in that. I have absolutely no fear. I never have. I've been telling myself this my whole life, and I know that I have. I dreamt one. There was 2 dreams that I had as a little girl through my whole childhood, and one I've only told a few people this. My significant other is always known. I told him this 30 years ago because it's always been weird to me why I would have this dream of a black square. And it terrorized me. It was a black square that stood on its end, and it spun very slowly in a black background. And I would want to touch it. There was something that was drawing me to touch it, but I was the fear was unbelievable. This fear that I would feel, and it would wake me up, and I would go stand at the end of my mom and dad's bed. I didn't wake them up. I would just stand there. And of course, you know, my mother would always wake up and go, "What are you doing?" "Well, I had a bad dream." "Well, go back to bed." And it was always the same dream all the time for probably 12, 13, maybe 14 years. I had that dream consistently, at least 2 or 3 times a week. And another one of 3 faces that would come out of a black background and fly really fast in front of my face. I couldn't see myself in the dream, but I knew that I was there. And this black square, the symbology of this black square is is very much being talked about. So that fear, like I knew, I was telling myself the whole time something was off. Pay attention. And now I am. I didn't then, but I am now. But I knew there was something wrong. And I've always known there was something wrong. Instead of fighting it, I just ran from it. And that's how I would just, if something come up, I had no problems walking away from family at 20. You know, if something there was a problem with a family member, that was it. I wasn't going to fight. It was fight or flight, done. That's it. I have no qualms with cutting you off. And so it was really a journey to walk through the whole thing, knowing now I'm at this point that everything then now makes sense. Everything now makes sense to me. And I don't know all the answers. I'm not saying I know all. Everything is where the intelligence comes in. So I hope I didn't talk too much.
That's really cool.
Not at all. That's great.
Interesting dreams. Yeah. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, through my whole, I don't know why. I never had the weird dreams. You know, I thought it was odd because kids would tell me, you know, they'd have all these dreams of waking up or having dreams standing on stage and everybody staring at you, all these really weird dreams. And then I would just have these 2. And I don't dream. I still now do not dream. I've had a couple dreams in the past year or so, but they're just, you know, they're my imagination playing with me, right? But other than that, I don't dream. And I always thought there was something weird about me. Why don't I dream? Everybody else dreams and I don't dream. Because Murray would tell me about these wild dreams that he would have. Mm-hmm. And he was at war in his dreams, always running. There was always some type of fighting going on that he was hiding, ducking and running and hiding all the time. Mm. And I just went blank and I thought something was wrong. Do I not have an imagination? Like I started to question why everybody tells me with their dreams and I don't have any to share, except for these 2 dreams that terrorized me as a little girl.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't remember their dreams.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
I believe there's a lot of people that don't remember their dreams, and I think it's a lot of work if you do want to remember them to more work than I want to do. I'm happy going to sleep. I love going to sleep, and I love and
Yeah.
I feel like I do go somewhere, but I don't know. I can't.
Well, I think you come out of it confused too, right? Like the dream state should be, or the dream imagination should be with every second of every moment of every waking. You know what I mean? Like this is your dream state. When you're going into the sleep state, dream state, you come out confused. You don't come out knowing what you were even dreaming about. There's a lot of confusion there. But if you're able to dream of, pardon me?
I'm not refreshed. I feel like I've just been regenerated. I've been rejuvenated. I've been through that part of this because I love it so much. I mean, it's just so sweet to go to bed. I love waking up. Now, once I open my eyes and I see where I am, sometimes it's disturbing.
Yeah.
Not really where I want to be, but it is where I am, and I accept that. But you're right. Maybe the people that do remember their dreams, I mean, it's just taken here. Is there anyone on this board that remembers all their dreams or most of their dreams? And if you do, unmute your mic.
Yeah, I think we talked about dreams a bit a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying that I know I dream, but most of the time I can't remember. I'll wake up and I'm like, I was really something really important then. I just cannot remember what it is. So I'm aware that I'm dreaming, but most of the time I can't remember what's going on. But I'm pretty aware that something pretty important's been going on, and I've been involved in it. So that's a whole different thing. There was a long period that I couldn't remember any dreams at all. And now I can remember a few, but for the most part, I just know I've been dreaming, but I don't know what they are. So that's another experience that way. So we're each different. I don't know what we do when we're sleeping. I mean, I think maybe we do. Like, Libby was saying at one point you were going to all sorts of places, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, here I'm back, oh dear. So.
Yeah, it's like,
right.
Is our sleep state our awake state, and is our awake state our sleep state? Because it sure feels like we're less aware, even though we're in our waking state, than the joy. It's like, I feel like I'm going home when I go to bed.
Right.
It's like
there you go.
Somewhere.
That's an interesting thought.
Where here I don't quite feel it. I was like, this is a crazy world, where in my sleep world seems to be
interesting, huh?
Yeah, upside down and inside out, right?
There we go. It's a crazy world.
I have something to say about dreams.
Cool.
Hey.
Whenever I hear the word dream, I think do re mi, do re mi, do re mi. It's a sound that creates reality. Is it not? Do re mi.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, it's a sound. Sounds.
It's music. It's it's an idea that we have, and we put it in the sound and the reality that we experience. When I was in, kind of funny because I want to say when I was in the real world, but really when I was in the dream world as a professional trader.
All right.
For the literal interpretation would mean so what I did is I managed energy. I managed money for people, and there's a lot of energy and a lot of stress, and but it was not reality at all. It was a virtual reality. It was a dream world, and when I was in that world, my days consisted of a dreamlike trance, for lack of a better way to describe it at the moment. And when I came out of that trance, when I came out of that market, so to speak, that's the literal interpretation of market. There is no market. It's just a virtual thing that people, that it's like many, many dreams intersecting simultaneously, millions and millions of dreamers, online dreamers coming in and trying to manifest their hopes and their wishes through the so-called stock market, equity market. And so I would spend a great deal of time in the 24-hour period construct in that dream world, the virtual world. And so in many, many times when I was in that place, I would come out of it and I would begin to interact with people around me, and I would have to get into a machine and operate it, and travel down the road. Many, many times people would comment to me something like, maybe we need to pull over because you're not really here. And so what it got down to after a few years is I would have to decompress for 2 hours before operating the machine, because I was in a dream world for so much time out of the day. And so when I came out of it, it was difficult to disconnect.
Wow.
Yeah. Because the way that I operated, and many of us operated, that I was linked to, we operated in an ether-esque reality.
Interesting.
Like a virtual reality.
Right.
And when we came out, the way this mind works is it doesn't immediately shut off. It begins to continue to think about what it's been through. And so it took about 2 hours to get out of that virtual reality into the alternate reality, which most of us share.
Right.
And it took years to get out of that. But it was basically a dream world. And it is to this day a dream world, when that is it's a virtual reality, and it's where people come together and they collectively dream in the stock market. And there's a lot of energy involved, and it's a very pure environment for intentions and dreams to exist. And the means by which we connect is through the internet. I don't do this anymore, but when I did do that, it was the internet. The internet was beginning to really blossom, commercially speaking, and it was through these stock markets that it was really taking off. And when I got into it, people said, you're going to fail and you're not going to do well, and this is not the way to go, because no one's ever done this. But the reality of it was, we're doing it all the time. We're doing this all the time, but this is different. Current C system, the commercial system. That the whole dream thing, as Ra was speaking about that, it really brought a lot of that back. And she speaks of the cube and the square. That's highly important, because there's a collective I think that we're collectively dreaming, we're looking at the cube and the square for some reason. I'm absolutely fascinated by it. It keeps on coming up in my reality and my perspective constantly. But it's, it has to do with construction, because I'm working on a house. I'm trying to take a house that's divided and bring it together, literally and pedagogically. And so, the cube has a lot to do with that. And I came across a great quote the other day. I have a disease. It's called thinking outside the box.
Yeah. There's a few of us doing that, I think.
Outside the cube.
Outside the cube, yeah, right of it. We'll go back in there.
You have to see the cage in order to get out of it. And the best way to get out of the cage is to feel for what it is. And the cage doesn't actually exist. We're not in the cage once we get this. You know, once you get to the knowing, and the knowing comes through the heart and the mind together. So you can hear that noise in the background, right?
Yep. And I've got gods in the back of mine.
Yeah, you know who that is?
Flint. Yes, that was my guess.
Tina.
So, Sarah, when you were talking about decompressing, are you talking about after you would leave your, we'll call it the workplace, and you had to, your mind was still in that dream state? Because I was thinking about that when you said that. I watched my significant other daily, all day, because that's what he did. He would work all day, and he would come home, and while he's awake, he's still in that dream state of that, what am I going to do the next day? Did I do things right? All his whole dream state was still in the reality of the workforce. It didn't go outside that. He had no imagination outside just his business, and that was it. And and that's what he would do. He would go to bed, the same thing. He would go to bed dreaming about the same thing that he did all day, and he would wake up in that same exact state.
Right.
Especially if a job, like he was on a job that was really, like real difficult, you know what I mean? Real precision, like take one of your hair and split it in 20 pieces and come up the size of putting a pin in a hole to that. So he would just feed on that. So he would get up in the morning in that same confused, full of anxiety state. Same thing. So he lived that whole state 24 hours a day, whether he was awake or whether he was asleep. It was nonstop. It was, yeah.
Yes, and I've got background information on that, and that highly technical work. You don't stop solving when a clock hits 4 or 5. You don't stop solving problems. Your mind in the background is constantly working. And it's, for some people, they cut it off, but in the more technical arts, such as what he does and what I do, is highly technical, but it's also heart-based as well, because you're dealing with a very high level of emotional aspect. But the way that we, as a trader, so to speak, of equities, we deal with a lot of mathematical technicalities. So the mind is engaged, but at the same time, the heart is as well. And in his case, it sounds like the same thing, because he's dealing with machinery and creations of his own that, if something is not done correctly, people can get hurt. So, well,
that's what the main thing, that's what the big thing was that this is a life or death, because he's hanging from a crane at a mill, that if a pin is not perfectly into size, that it's not heat treated properly, that it's not put in with precision, somebody could die. So that was a really big thing for him, right? It was always the fear of death, because it was heavy equipment. It was trailers hauling heavy equipment. It was cranes at the mills. So it was always somebody else could be harmed if he didn't do things exactly right. So that pressure that he was putting on himself was extending beyond it. The pressure was worrying about others, is what it was.
Yeah, and he was, he was in that position because, he had the aptitude and the capacity to be there. And so that's where he needed to be. You don't want the guys or the gals to be in that position that don't have the capacity to really be heart-oriented as well as intellectually engaged in such a thing. But I think the point, one of the big points here is that it is very difficult, especially for those of us that choose to be very responsible. It's very difficult for us us to disengage from that responsibility based on a clock, a 12-hour, 24-hour clock.
Oh, it's not just that. It's the comfort of insurance.
Right.
People, like, they're very comforted by that. Well, I got filming for, we have $4 million liability insurance.
Right.
Protected, but he still, you know what I mean? There's still, that did not. That was nothing to him.
Yeah. There's no insuring a lost life. It's gone. But
exactly.
But again, we're dreamers. And I think all of us are dreamers, but when it comes to like your mate and myself and the trading, we place ourselves at the place in which, we are able to take our dreams and manifest them into this reality. And we don't go over that level. We may test it. Okay. We may test our limitations. And when we do that, a lot of times we can't sleep. We got to bring home work with us. We bring it home and it causes a lot of problems at home. It causes a lot of discord around us because oftentimes, and this is just my observation, a lot of very responsible, very productive, risk-taking type of people, they oftentimes are around people that are not that way. And it's like the contrast propels them and reminds them of who they really are. They decided to come to this place in order to solve big problems, not small problems. And in order to solve big problems, there's pain and anxiety, at least not necessarily for us, because when I was doing what I did, everyone around me was like, oh my God, this is insane. Something bad's going to happen. And I was sitting there saying, I'm having the time of my life, baby. This is great.
Yeah. That's what there's where you see the moral compass when beings are actually realizing that they don't have the same moral standards because people refuse to work with him.
Yeah.
It got to the point that nobody wanted to work with him, especially for welding and tacking on his line bore and his shot and stuff that he needed tacked on. So people started to withdraw. They were like, I don't want to work with him. Get somebody else, to work, because he expected perfection. He expected that. He expected that of himself, and he expected that of everybody else. And ones that could not stand up to that, they just voluntarily backed off. They had no qualms with saying, I'm not working with Murray, because they just knew that they could not, they couldn't be morally liable the way he was. They were to just get it done, get it quick, put some welding, who cares if there's some slug in there, you know what I mean? Like, it was just, so they would back off. So Murray ended up just getting rid of everybody else, not expecting anything of anybody else, and got all the equipment to do it himself. And that's what he ended up doing in the end, right? Because nobody wanted to work with them. They didn't have that same type of high ethics, like ethics, to make sure that somebody's not going to die when we're done this.
Yeah, this is the difference between the path and the superhighway. Very few go down the path or go up the path. I like to say go up the path, because if you're on the path nowadays, you're going up, because very few people are with you. Consciousness is an upward. Consciousness is, let's put it this way, consciousness is, and the superhighway is not about consciousness. It's about just being comfortable. And what you're saying, it's very few people are going to be able to relate. But if you are a change agent, if you're going to do things the right way instead of the wrong way or the mediocre way, you're going to be on the path, not the superhighway.
Yeah.
And but that's okay. We all have the place we need to be. We all know where we need to be, because we're constantly. It's looking us in the face every day, and we might not like it, but And I've dealt with a few people lately here that are like, I'm not where I need to be. I'm lost. Like, you're getting the information that you need to get in order to make the best decision for you, not necessarily for me, but for you. You need to do what you need to do for you. Because you chose to be in this place.
Yep.
We all did. We've all chosen. I get the idea here very strongly that we have all chosen to be here. This is no freaking accident.
Nope.
And we have a certain function to perform in order to have the experience that it offers us, so that we can be better at fulfilling our purpose. It just seems like that's the way of it. And the good and the bad all go into serving that purpose. Good and evil serve that purpose.
Yes.
And so that's it. It continues to round out. I continue to learn. I'm continuing loving learning. All the experiences, the good and the bad, which all of you know about, are serving the purpose. And the purpose is a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of, so that I, you, everybody can serve better.
Yep.
Good stuff, chaps. Thank you.
Hey, Jolly.
Yeah.
You saw the YouTube video of Wayseer, the more recent one?
Yes. Yeah, we played it earlier.
That's a great song to begin and end with.
Well, we did play it. Jolly found it and played it.
It wasn't a song, though. The one we played wasn't a song.
Oh.
So it must be something else. Maybe you're talking about. I'll have to find this out. He's got a new song as well.
His song, it's kind of interesting because he does both. He teaches, like, he does a monologue, and sometimes it turns into a song.
That's the original Wayseer Manifesto.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's 9 minutes long. We played that often.
That's the Bill Ray Me.
Okay. Yeah, it's brilliant, that one. It's brilliant. I love that.
But yeah, he's come up with another one.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to, as you know, he's trying to, like I'm doing and like a lot of us are doing, we're trying to remind people how powerful they are.
Exactly.
We're not victims.
It's called How to Change People. That's the one that you played.
Yeah, yes. How to Change People, something like that.
Yes.
I got a link there in the
yeah, we played that today. It's not a song, but he's just explaining it again. And like I said, also that it's a reminder of something we already know, but it's a really cool reminder. So I really enjoyed that, yeah. We played it earlier on.
I think God is saying he likes it too.
Yeah, he's saying, what's going on in there, Jolly? I want to know what's going on. So,
well, sister, I want to thank you again for all that you're doing to keep this show going, because without you,
we keep
for working the hours that you're working and sojourning the way you have sojourned. You have kept this show running for 2 years and a bit, maybe. Is it 2 years that we've been doing this, sister?
I guess, yeah. Probably at this point, all of 2015 or 2016 now. So yeah, it's a good couple of years, I'd say, at this point. For sure.
You joined us about a year ago too, didn't you? Where you almost always was stuff 2 years ago too.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just spun by. So I do want to put a call out and a thank you to everybody who's listening now and in the future, and to thank everybody who's helped us in any way and is helping others along the way who don't have the means to get the internet or a phone or all the things that the system wants us to have. And through your goodwill, you've done that for people. So thank you to everybody who's helped anyone along the no-name path. Thank you.
Good stuff. Well, thank you to Libby for always being a bright shining star amongst us and sharing your stories. It's always wonderful to hear it all from each other, you know.
Oh,
So,
I'm so grateful for you, sister, and
yeah.
for all of our virtual family. So thank you.
Indeed. Yes. So thank you to everybody, all our brothers and sisters. We're here to support and encourage each other. And as we go, we are one. This one's